It was a quiet evening, just like any other, when Sarah's life would change forever. And not because of her epilepsy, it was because of her dog, Poppy. What happened that night wasn't just a coincidence, it was the beginning of a life-saving bond no one could have anticipated. Sarah had adopted Poppy, a golden Labrador, 3 years ago, never imagining just how much this dog would come to mean to her. Poppy was playful, affectionate, and always by Sarah's side, a constant source of joy. But there was something even more special about Poppy, something that wouldn't reveal itself until the night that changed everything. Sarah had lived with epilepsy for as long as she could remember. Her seizures came without warning. Sometimes they'd strike during the day, other times in the dead of night. There were no signs, no subtle clues to prepare for them. The unpredictability was terrifying, making every day feel like a waiting game. Medication helped, but it wasn't perfect. Sarah had learned to cope, but the constant anxiety weighed on her. She couldn't control when or where a seizure might happen, and this lack of control made her feel vulnerable, especially when she was alone. One evening, after a long day at work, Sarah was standing in the kitchen preparing dinner. It had been a regular day, with no indication of the storm brewing inside her. Suddenly, Poppy, who had been lying calmly in her usual spot, stood up. Her ears perked, her body stiffened, and she began to bark, a sound so sharp and urgent it startled Sarah. At first, Sarah thought Poppy had seen something outside, maybe a stray animal or someone walking past the house. But when she turned around to calm her dog, she saw that Poppy wasn't barking at the window or the door. She was barking at her, eyes locked on Sarah as if trying to tell her something. The barking grew louder, more frantic, and then it happened. In a flash, Sarah felt a familiar sensation, a wave of dizziness that quickly spiraled into a full-blown seizure. She collapsed onto the cold kitchen floor, completely unaware of what was happening around her. When Sarah woke up disoriented and lying on her back, Poppy was right beside her. The dog had stayed by her side the entire time, whimpering softly as Sarah slowly regained consciousness. In those first few minutes after the seizure, Sarah could barely remember what had happened, except for one thing. Poppy had barked before the seizure hit. At first, she brushed it off as a strange coincidence, but the more she thought about it, the more unsettled she became. Could Poppy have sensed the seizure coming? Was her dog trying to warn her? It was hard to believe, and Sarah wasn't sure what to make of it. Still, the incident stuck with her, leaving her wondering if there was more to Poppy's instincts than met the eye. Weeks passed, and Sarah tried to put the thought out of her mind. Life went back to its usual routine, until it happened again. One Saturday morning, Sarah was lounging on the couch, flipping through a magazine when Poppy suddenly became agitated. This time, the barking started out of nowhere. Poppy, who had been lying quietly next to Sarah, jumped up and barked, loud and insistent, her paws tapping nervously on the floor. Sarah froze. "Poppy, what is it?" she asked, confused by the dog's behavior. But before she could stand up, she felt it. A wave of nausea and dizziness. Sarah's heart raced as she realized what was happening. The seizure was coming. And just like that, she collapsed, her body losing control as the seizure took over. When she came to, Sarah couldn't believe it. This wasn't a coincidence. Poppy had known. She had sensed the seizure coming before Sarah even felt the first symptom. But how? How could her dog possibly know what was about to happen when even Sarah couldn't? Intrigued and a little overwhelmed, Sarah began researching. Could it be that Poppy was detecting her seizures before they struck? As it turns out, she wasn't the first person to experience this. Through her research, Sarah discovered stories of other dogs who had shown a similar ability. Dogs that could sense subtle changes in their owner's body chemistry, picking up on something that no human could perceive. Some believed it was a change in scent. Others thought dogs were able to detect electrical activity in the brain before a seizure began. The science wasn't fully understood, but the stories were real. Now, Sarah paid close attention to Poppy's every move. And sure enough, time after time, the pattern repeated. Every time Sarah was about to have a seizure, Poppy would start barking. It was always the same. Poppy would sense it minutes before Sarah felt anything, giving her just enough time to prepare. And with that small window of warning, Sarah could sit or lie down, making sure she was in a safe place before the seizure hit. It made all the difference. One day, while out on a walk, Sarah felt a rush of panic as Poppy started barking again. They were on a busy street and Sarah had no time to react. But Poppy refused to let her move forward, tugging on the leash and barking wildly. People stared, but Sarah didn't care. Her dog was saving her life. Seconds later, she collapsed onto the sidewalk. But because of Poppy's warning, Sarah had managed to avoid falling into traffic or hitting her head on the pavement. Once again, her faithful Labrador had prevented a potentially dangerous situation. Poppy's ability to predict Sarah's seizures was nothing short of miraculous. The dog became Sarah's protector, her lifeline. Wherever Sarah went, Poppy was with her, always on alert, always ready to spring into action. No longer did Sarah live in constant fear of the unknown. Poppy gave her the peace of mind she had so desperately needed. The fear of unpredictability faded, replaced by the comfort of knowing Poppy was there, watching over her. Over the years, Poppy's warnings saved Sarah from countless injuries. She became more than just a pet. She was Sarah's guardian angel in fur, a living reminder of the extraordinary bond between humans and dogs. No one could explain exactly how Poppy knew, but it didn't matter. What mattered was that she did know, and that she was there when Sarah needed her the most. Poppy's extraordinary ability to predict seizures not only saved Sarah, but also deepened their bond in ways Sarah could never have imagined. Their story became a testament to the incredible intelligence and loyalty of dogs, a bond that goes beyond mere companionship into the realm of life-saving devotion. Thanks for watching ZapTales. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another incredible story. We'll see you next time.